Okay, let's take a look here. How are things going? Do you have any questions you want to start with?
I think I have corrected some of the things.
Do you have any questions about my feedback, some of my comments that I've made?
No, I was just I was the one who included like a lot of bullet points.
Okay. Yeah, I would use them sparingly.
Yeah, I took them a lot.
Okay, yeah, because usually it's because it gets really easy to start using a lot of bullet points and then they transfer over to your final presentation. Usually, try to think of if there are you feel like there is a list.
Okay.
Choose maybe the ones that are most appropriate first of all, and then you can either list them out like as a sentence and a series.
Yeah, that's what
yeah.
I did, and I had like kind of like the concept and then the definition.
Okay.
What it was, and I took that out, just like put them in a list.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you show me where was that? Or tell me again what was that? I don't.
I had them like in like for the Bloom's taxonomy.
Yeah.
Like knowledge, and then I had kind of like an explanation.
Okay.
I took out the explanation. I think it was
yeah.
obvious.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. With Bloom's taxonomy, you really want to touch on just the most relevant aspects, because it's such a large topic that you want to just kind of bring out those main ideas that really relate to your claim. Don't forget headings are in bold too, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I have to. Because I have like the affected domain and the second order domain. Those are all in bold, or can they be like subheadings?
Okay, let me take a look here. Okay, so you have lesson plans. Okay, in your thesis statement, I would say they tend to deviate from their original plans, just to make it not sound like all teachers always deviate. So they tend to deviate from their original plans. All right, we'll come back to your thesis statement. So we have lesson plans. Then we have Bloom's taxonomy. And the psychomotor domain is part of Bloom, right?
Yeah, and you told me to put it in bold, and I did.
Okay.
It's like a subheading.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I would do a level 3. So level 3 is part of the heading. So I'll do this one as an example. This is in bold. And a level 3 heading is a little bit different than level 1s and level 2s. Okay, so level 1, level 2, main words are capitalized and there's no punctuation. Level 3 heading, only the first word is capitalized and we end in a period. So in this example, we'll change this to bold and a period, 2 spaces, and we bring this up as part of the paragraph. So we'll include a half-inch indentation. Okay.
It's half an inch.
Half an inch, right? And half an inch for all of your paragraphs. So.
Yeah, I think I have to change that too.
Yeah, an easy way to do it is to select all of your text, like bring this back over, but you would select the entire text and then slide this over, and then it changes automatically your text. But if you've already have a space here, you'll have to backspace each one. Well, here's okay, in fact. This one's okay. You're okay there, so just, yeah, but the main thing is just to make sure that you have a half inch. It looks like most of them are okay. So this is a level 3 heading. Now, so you're talking a lot about Bloom, right? All right, so, and then so you're contrasting too, right? Or adding other authors to complement these domains from Bloom?
Yeah, because I found Bloom, but then I found Dave, and there's another one.
Okay.
Because I think Bloom was like the first one to create it, and then they
Yeah.
were like revised and adapted. And
Right. Yeah, because there's two. Like there's an updated version of Bloom where there's creativity that wasn't included, I think, in the original. So, are you talking about that also?
Creativity, yeah.
Right, but the new model, well, the fairly newer model that came back in the 70s or 80s. I don't remember
I think
exactly.
I'm talking about it in the psychomotor domain.
Are you talking about? Let's see the. All right, so your theory. I'm trying to link. How are you linking Bloom's taxonomy and lesson plan? As far as if they deviate, what's the connection there?
They might deviate because of the objective, and I think mostly all of us use like the verbs in Bloom's taxonomy.
Okay. All right. So, for example, if the teacher in their plans and their objectives, they're going to state or use a performance verb that's coming from Bloom's taxonomy, right?
Right, and it could be like affective or
right, psychomotor
yeah,
or
they
cognitive.
do like I don't know, like a game or something. Oh, it's because I wanted.
All right, so you want to see how they deviate based on the type, one of those three, right? Like that would be kind of the analysis. Like if they're deviating, do they deviate more from a cognitive domain, psychomotor domain, or see? Okay. So, all right. And have you found research that links that specifically or not? Have you found research that looks at Bloom's taxonomy and how teachers deviate from their lesson plans?
In the one I found, it kind of included it, but not specifically.
And how did it include it?
Just when they mentioned that when it was lesson planning, and they talked about where they planned and how that
okay.
If they planned alone, how that affected their teaching, and if they planned like with other teachers, and then they talked about the objectives, which is like to complement their planning.
Okay. Okay. And in your lesson plan evaluation, period with lesson plan that takes place. Reflecting. Okay, you got a lot of topics here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I count 7 level 2 headings. I would recommend that you have between anywhere from 2 to 4 level 2 headings. What I mean by level 2 headings, those are the main sections of your literature review. So double check and first make sure maybe some of those headings that you now have as level 2 are actually level 3, like just as we changed that. But I would try to focus on the main sections anywhere from 2 to 4. Yeah, because I think if you have any more than that, then you start really limiting the amount of text that you'll include in each section. It'll get kind of...
Okay, and so the headings for the number 2 headings are in bold also?
Yeah, all headings are in bold.
In bold?
Level 1, level 2, or level 3. A level 1 heading is like your title that you have here, and like method down here at the bottom. These are level 1s.
Like centered, right?
Yeah. This is a level 1. Method and results and discussions are level 1. Level 2 headings are flush left on a separate line, like participants, instruments, and procedure, like the main sections of your literature review. And level 3 are like the ones I just showed you here with the cognitive domain. Now, if you have, I don't know how many main headings you're going to end up having, but if you have a lot of level 2 headings, you're going to have very few, if any, level 3. just because of the amount of text, because you really don't want to have any heading where you have where you don't have much text. Like if you just have one paragraph, you're not going to want to have any type of heading, whether it's level 2 or level 3. So just kind of plan, and just depends on how many number of level 2 headings you end up having.
Yeah, I think.
If you have some students have only 2 main sections, and in that case, most of them are going to have a level 3 heading. But typically, if you have 3 or more, usually you won't need level 3 headings. Usually.
Yeah, I think I was getting confused with the
Okay. Now let's talk again about the organization. So we have lesson plans. We have taxonomy. What's another main section that you're considering? Evaluation, right? You mentioned like reflection or evaluation of the planning and lesson implementation, correct? Okay. Now, in your literature, what are some main points or ideas that you're talking about in your evaluation, how they evaluate their lesson plan? What are you focusing on there?
When it's in reflection?
Uh-huh.
I have evaluation, and I talk about like what it is.
Okay.
And then like when it takes place.
Okay.
So it can be like before,
Mm-hmm.
before, during, or after. And then I found reflecting in action and reflecting on action.
Okay.
So I'm talking about that. And then I included now like the backward design, which is basically like before you start with the goals and the objectives.
Okay, so what's really important, especially in your case, because you have these 3 main, and that's pretty much it, right? Those are your 3 main sections. So planning, Bloom's taxonomy, and then the reflection piece.
Right.
Now, be careful whenever because remember in each paragraph, you have 4 types of sentences. You have the main idea, which is the topic sentence. You have evidence, which are citations. And you have analyze and link. Now, link just means the last sentence that links the idea from your current paragraph to the next. But the analyze sentence, make sure in most of your body paragraphs that you're linking these 3 concepts. So, for example, you talk about lesson plan. All right, develop that idea. Then, when you start talking about Bloom's taxonomy, talk about your concepts, but discuss it. Comment the evidence and relate that not only to the main idea of the paragraph, but also talk about the relationship, make some connection with lesson planning.
And
right.
And it won't be considered as like plagiarism.
Well, I mean, if it's your idea and you're connecting ideas of your evidence.
Okay.
All you're doing is commenting on the evidence. So you're saying, I talked about this in the lesson planning, and there was some evidence. Now I'm talking about cognitive development, Bloom's taxonomy, citation. Now you just make a comment about the evidence. You're only talking about the evidence, and you're making relationships about that. So it's not plagiarism if you're commenting on the evidence, trying to make a link to common ideas that are coming from the topic sentences. Okay. So one thing is so as long as you talk about the evidence in relationship to the main ideas, you're not plagiarizing.
Okay.
What would be plagiarism is it would be just taking another person's idea and not citing it. So you would be, a lot of times after we've made a citation, we draw a conclusion that may need a citation, but I'll help you with those types of sentences. But the main thing is to connect each of the main sections, and the same way in the evaluation, try to link what you mentioned in Bloom's taxonomy and or something about lesson planning with a lesson reflection or evaluation, however you want to discuss it or frame it. But the idea is that you're drawing these 3 together. that they're not just super isolated things, that they're concepts that relate to each other. And that's what I want you to be really careful about, because these are, I see where you want to go with this, but you need to make sure that it's clear to the reader what those relationships are, so they don't just, like, they're not linked. That's the main thing. So be really careful with that. And if you find evidence, that's even better. I mean, examples where you cite, for example, in the reflection piece, any evidence that talks about Bloom's taxonomy in reflection, or Bloom's taxonomy in lesson planning, or and similarly, any evidence or experts that talk about Bloom's taxonomy in lesson planning, which I think you should find there.
Yeah.
You should find a lot about lesson planning and behavioral objectives and using Bloom's taxonomy, because everybody seems to want to do that. So yeah, just be careful with that. Yeah, making sure you link those ideas, and in your research questions. Let's take another look at those. Now, are your research questions here at the end, or?
Yeah, in the last paragraph.
Now you have this one. Is it related to the development as mentioned above?
Yeah, well, it's, however, when do teachers make the decision to do so, and why do they decide to change the original idea?
Okay.
Those are the two.
Okay. So this next question, I would consider not to put it. It almost sounds like a rhetorical question. So I would take that out. But let's see. So, however, when do teachers make a decision? All right. So be more explicit, and you can even now change and say this research. Like before, we don't want to say this research or my research at all in the literature review. But this last paragraph is kind of a transition, so you can say, okay, for the purpose of the following research questions will be, investigated based on Bloom's taxonomy, or based on the concepts that you've talked about, and then state the question. Go ahead and put in.
Like that.
And, yeah. So, how do teachers decide to deviate from their lesson plan according to Bloom's taxonomy? So see how you want to try to link as much as you can the notions of lesson planning, reflection on one's teaching practice, and Bloom's taxonomy. Okay. Similarly, your thesis statement should also try to include something about Bloom's taxonomy and lesson planning or reflection. Okay. So I would revisit your research questions and your thesis statement to try to include those main topics in your literature review, so it just looks, everything is more aligned. Okay. And yeah. What else? Now, yeah, I don't know if you're still planning on making changes, but under reflecting on page, well, I don't see a page number, but under reflecting it says there are two notions. Try, I'm not sure if you're still working on this, but you try to write topic sentences.
That would be like my claim.
Yeah, think of like every topic sentence as a claim, and a claim is debatable. A claim is not something that's obvious. A claim is either true or false. it has two perspectives. It can be something that people believe in and other people don't believe in. And what your objective is to argue that one point of view, one or the other, and present both sides of the argument, but to say that this is how, this is the position that you're taking. So, and also it won't be a direct quote, or it won't be a citation, so it'll be an original idea, but then your citations will support your idea. So typically I would avoid using there is, there are, and try your best to use other verbs that are not to be, okay, for topic sentences. That way, that will kind of force you into more of a claim-like sentence. So write your topic sentences as a claim. Okay. Anything else? Let's see. Okay. 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 I think. Yeah. Yeah. The main thing here is to focus on the claims. And so typically, for example, you won't be defining words.
Yeah,
Right. So you may define it later on, and when you define it, bring in an expert who defines it. So beliefs are, but you find an expert who has defined the word belief. Yeah. And don't use, obviously, we don't want to use dictionaries or encyclopedias, but you want an expert. So according to, or simply you can say, beliefs are this, this, and this, and then put the citation, and that'll be good. So. Okay. Any other doubts, questions? One last thing about your headings. When you finish, go back and read each section, and I would try to create a short phrase that best represents the main idea of each section. So instead of saying lesson plans, maybe a phrase that includes something about lesson plans, just to be a little bit more descriptive.
Okay, not just like the.
Yeah, but you can do that at the end.
Okay.
Same way with Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy, something like that. Yeah, something linked to lesson plans, and then evaluation, something about evaluation or reflection uh, through Bloom's taxonomy or some way there, because that might help you kind of tie into these sections as well. Okay. Okay, any other doubts?
So I can correct it and then send you a message?
Yeah, now I'll try to get back to you now that we're getting close to the deadline. I may or may not be able to get back to you depending on when you send me it. Probably on Friday. If you send me something on Friday, I probably won't have time to get back to you since that is the last day well, it's the due date. So if you can, try to send me something today, and I'll try to get back to you, by tomorrow to allow you some more time to make changes. I'm going to provide feedback again after the 28th, after the due date, just like I've done here. but probably a little bit more thorough, as if I were a senior doc, as if I were an examiner, because I want that all of you to know what to expect for the final. Now, you're going to have plenty of time to make those changes. I'm going to look at it again on the final draft. As far as your grade is concerned, I'm giving less weight on each individual product and more weight on the final draft. So the final draft is really what has more weight as far as your grade is concerned. But you're going to have, if you make those changes that I suggest throughout the class, theoretically you'll have the changes will be minimal once you have completed the final draft, and your grade will reflect that. So the main thing is to try to make the changes that I provide with the feedback that I'm doing now, as well as the feedback after the due date, so that first draft is the best first draft that you can do, and any of my feedback will be just small errors. It won't be like major errors. But it's very important for me that each one of you really knows what to expect as far as how the examiners are going to provide feedback, so that there's no surprises like, well, why didn't they check this, and why didn't they check that type of thing. So
yeah, I'll probably send it to you like in the afternoon.
Okay.
I'll go home right now.
Okay, I'll be trying to check here in the afternoon and the evening, so I'll do my best to give you feedback. I'm not sure how many more of you will be sending, but I will get to you as many documents as I can, and yeah, we'll go from there. Next week we'll start with the design of the instruments and continue on with the process here. So. And also, there's no reflection this week. So. Okay, so we'll see you, Luce.
Yes, I'll send it to you in.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.